What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers, and particularly, welcome to PCP Movie Night. I'm your host, Rockin, Robbie Billups, and this is the show where we gather and we talk about movies we took last week off, but now we're continuing our look at some of the works of some of my favorite directors with John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Very excited to talk about this movie, so we got a fantastic panel assorted with us, including some first-timers, including Verno, first-time watch for you.
First timer. What up? What's going on? Don't tell Joe I'm a first timer, though. He doesn't like to hear that.
No, he doesn't. Also, first time watching Escape from New York. Brooks, no surprise there, honestly.
It seemed like one that I should have watched when I was a kid, though. It's one of those ones I recognize the character. And I'm like, man, I bet it's a good movie. I really like it, but I just never did watch it for some reason.
Yeah. Well, we fixed that for you, right? That's what we did. Speaking of fixing things for you, if you got a problem, he'll fix it. It's Fable. What's up, my man? How you doing?
I can relate to this movie. I too am trying to escape from New York. Nation.
That's a great intro. I should have. Yeah, that's why Fable's here. We're trying to help him escape. Speaking of escaping, this guy's always escaping off into his weird, wet dreams and fantasies. It's Jelani. How you doing, man?
I do some of that sometimes. What's up, Station?
That was a weird intro.
How am I supposed to lead into that?
I don't know. I mean, I just throw him out there and see what happens, man. You know, all I got to do is set you up. Speaking of setting you up, you better watch it if you're in New York, because this guy's going to set you up for murder. How you doing?
Look, if someone told me they'd never seen, Crawl, I get it. All right? But, Escape from New York? Come on.
I never even heard of it.
Wow.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
No. I mean, I have talked to some people in the past, week, I'm going to be on the stream. We're going to be talking about Escape from New York. And one person I told this was like, oh, I never heard of it. Is it like an older movie or something? And stuff like that. So there is no hope for humanity, which leads right into the themes in Escape from New York.
Yes, 100%. This movie's as old as I am. It's from 1981. It was released in July of 1981. So I was 2 months old when this movie came out. Had a budget of $6 million, kind of made around 25. That number's kind of fudgy. We don't really know if that's the real number, but it was a big hit. It was a big hit for John Carpenter. He had a 2-picture deal with the embassy. He did The Fog. This was the follow-up. This was really an awesome movie. It was well regarded when it came out. It had cinematography that was kind of new and fresh. The way they filmed things at night, they kind of had this dark, gritty, yet kind of grounded in reality, kind of look at the future, which you didn't really have from a lot of films. And John Carpenter just at the top of his game right now. He had just come off The Fog. Before that, Halloween, he did the Elvis movie with Kurt Russell. That's why Kurt Russell's in here. They want to do From Death Wish, Charles Bronson, right? but he's like, nah, too old, and don't want somebody who can push me around. So then he casts Lee Van Cleef. I guess that's how you solve that. But I love this film. I am a huge John Carpenter fan. I don't love all of his movies. In fact, there is a sequel to this film because I watched this on like Tuesday and Wednesday night. I was like, you know what? I got a couple hours. Why don't I watch Escape from LA? That was a mistake. I wish I would have
It's the
my
same
teenage
movie, but
recollection
worse.
of that. But
Yeah.
Escape from New York, I probably watched it for the first time in the video store days in middle school or high school or something like that. It may have been timed around when Escape from LA was coming out. That was like 96, I think. That's like my sophomore year. So it was around that time, and it's just been something I've enjoyed ever since. And there's so many other Carpenter films that I would say I like more, but it doesn't discount the fact that this, to me, is a masterclass in how to make a low-budget film with cheaply. Low budget, cheaply. That's kind of redundant, but these things, the effects in this film still hold up for me today. The matte paintings, the models, it all still works. The way that they're faking computer generated imagery where they have a model of the city with a bunch of black light reflective tape around it. And that's what he's like. That's the sensors when he's flying through. Like, it's amazing, this movie, what was done with it on the cheap, and it still holds up today. For instance, having just rewatched Escape from LA, Escape from New York's visual effects hold up way better. Just saying. And that shouldn't be the case because the budget was crazier. Speaking of shouldn't be the case because the budget got crazier, Verno, first time watch. What'd you think overall about Escape from New York?
I liked it. I will say I really liked it after I watched it a couple times too, because the first time watching it, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I appreciate it even more after I saw the budget. And it's like, holy crap, this does not feel like that low budget of a film at all. But it's also, it came out in 81, so it's a year before Rambo. It's before Lethal Weapon. It's before Die Hard. It feels more like a 70s film. So this is probably one of the older action movies that I've really seen, probably. You know what I mean? It feels way more 70s. So at first I was like, where's the big finale? You know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily have that, but I bought the thing once I decided I was going to do this. I'm like, this is a movie that I know I'm going to like. I love John Carpenter. I'm into that kind of thing. But like I said, I was expecting more Big Trouble in Little China. And this feels more like the dude that directed The Fog and Halloween. And it being an action movie, it threw me off at first. But the world building, the characters, the vibe of it, of course, the music, it's great. It's a super fun, enjoyable, easy, like chill watch for an action movie. You know what I mean? But I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I bought the thing.
Heck yeah, man. Awesome to hear. What about you, Brooks? This was your first time watching. What'd you think of Escape from New York?
I loved it. It was fun. I loved watching it like the whole time. It was just a blast. I really enjoyed this movie, and like it was pretty much what I expected. You know, it was a John Carpenter action movie, and I love Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken. Like, I just love his whole attitude about things. Like,
based his performance on Clint Eastwood, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I can see that a little bit. Yeah, but yeah,
I don't give a damn about your war.
Yeah, I don't give a damn about your president. I don't give a damn about your war. I like to think that I'm like Snake Plissken in a lot of ways.
Of course. See, I knew you'd like this movie because it's
badass who doesn't play by the rules.
Yeah, it's an anti-authority kind of vibe, and like you're a bit like John Carpenter and Snake Plissken yourself, Brooks. You know, so
I just need to poke one of my eyes out, and it'd be like you wouldn't even be able to tell it.
Just do the patch. You don't need to poke the eye. We won't ask what's under
well, you wear glasses, so it's like half and half
Just black
instead
out
of
one
the
of my
one
glasses.
patch of the other. So you're fine. Yeah,
yeah, you wear glasses. That's the Arnold Palmer of eyeball trauma.
there you go.
What about you, Fable? Escape from New York. What do you think?
I love this movie. Well, let me say I fell in love with it watching it now recently. Because when I was a kid, to be honest with you, I did not like this movie. Like, you talk about Carpenter films that you don't like. This was like probably the lowest on the list for me compared to his other stuff. But watching it on this go around, I don't know. I guess I kind of like retroactively fell in love with it because I'm just like first of all, I'm just looking at the cast and I'm like, oh man, they got Tom Atkins in here. Holy shit. Oh yeah. Oh, look at Ernest Borgnine. Really? He's in this?
Basketball's Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at this cast and everybody I love in it. Adrian, what's her name?
Barbeau.
Well, yeah. I love
Adrian
her.
Barbeau.
I met her
she's
in
in
October.
Of course,
Yeah.
Kurt Russell, awesome. So, yeah, no, I really liked it. And you're right, Robbie. Like the New York, like the effects. I mean, you could tell it's fake as shit, but it still looks pretty, right? Like it's just beautifully done. So you can still appreciate that, like skyline with no lights, but still visible, and it's like dark, and the atmosphere is great in this movie. Now, this is. I retroactively fell in love with this movie watching it this time around, especially knowing everything I know about Carpenter and everything I know about the actors and everything, the music now, you know what I mean? The soundtrack in this thing. I really liked it. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Jelani, I know you're a fan of this movie. We've watched it together multiple times. What do you think? What do you think overall?
This movie is beautiful. This is like a chef's kiss of a John Carpenter film for me. I love the music. I love all of the effects, like you've all said before. It is one of those like quintessential, just like a microcosm of what like the 80s and the early 70s were, like you said before. Like I think Verno may have said that, but it makes a lot of sense. I didn't watch this one first. I saw Escape from LA first, unfortunately. I worked at the movie theater when it came out in like 96. And I was like, oh, Escape from LA, whatever. I watched it. I was like, it's all right. It's got Henry Fonda in it. And he's like surfing and stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's nice. I'll watch the first one because I had no clue what was going on in Escape from LA. Because I was like, Snake Plissken. I mean, I know I've heard of him, but I didn't know what it was. So I like rented it from my local Blockbuster and saw it for the first time. And I was blown away. I love that movie, especially Adrian Barbeau as Maggie. If I was Brain, I'd definitely get a Maggie. She was just down. But there are a lot of things in this movie that are crazy because like when I saw it, like I said, it was 96 and I watched it and they were like 1997. It takes place in 1997. I'm like, oh crap! So we're supposed to like deal with this in a year? That's pretty bad. I think that's why Escape from LA came out like when it did, because they were like trying to capitalize on how it was in 97 and whatever it was in Escape from LA. I don't know what that was. Probably 10 years later or something. I don't remember because that movie's trash. But this movie was fantastic. I loved it.
Hell yeah. Great movie. You know, the interesting thing is, you know, they talked about doing a third one for a long time. And allegedly what I heard was that Ghost of Mars was kind of like a retooled Escape Part 3, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting because Ghost of Mars, that movie kind of sucks too.
Oh yeah, I like that's the nicest review I've ever heard of Ghost of Mars.
Speaking of the nicest reviews, what about you, Joe? What do you think about this film overall?
No, overall, great. Another movie like this also predates Blade Runner, and there's a lot of Blade Runner aesthetic throughout this whole movie. And I don't think anyone mentioned this before, but this movie was written in like 74, 73. Mm-hmm. This was during it was written as a like post or at the time Watergate sort of mentality of
fascist state.
Yeah. And so leading in that, so that's I'm sure where a lot of it has that like 70s sort of action kind of feel to it. But yeah, the aesthetic of it, shooting it all at night. I mean, it was apparently a very difficult shooting at night because they ended up blowing the budget a lot on lighting for night shoots. The cinematography is fantastic. And it's no wonder that the director of photography from this movie went on to be the director of photography for Jack and Jill.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
You can
other
see it
John
when
Carpenter
you're-
films, but
Other John Carpenter films, Jurassic Park, all the Back to the Future movies, but the important one, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but the
Mhm.
important one is Adam Sandler's magnum opus, Jack and Jill,
okay.
which,
Thanks.
after all those years of Adam Sandler, pushing the boundaries of acting, finally delved into, an exploration of self on a level that just, find me some other actors who could do a movie like Jack and Jill. You're not going to find it.
The
Well, I haven't
Trailblazer.
seen it. I guess we'll have to mark you down for that one when we get to it, Joe.
Oh, I'll be there. I have seen Jack and Jill at least twice.
Twice too many times.
But you like Escape from New York.
Oh yeah. I mean, despite the fact that there's zero Al Pacino in this, and there's Al Pacino in Jack and Jill.
That's right.
Just saying.
All right. One of the reasons why this movie soars, I think, is because of the characters. And the characters are perfectly realized by a fantastic cast. Fable was going on the list. You forgot to mention Scientology's own Isaac Hayes, as well. But such a great cast. Every performer, everybody stands out. Everybody who has a line in the movie stands out. And let's let the rookies go first. So Verno, what's the character / performance you want to highlight?
I like that you say everybody stands out, because this guy has no business standing out. He could totally be a throwaway character that nobody would ever notice, but he's so standout. The Romero is the character's name.
Yes.
He kind of looks like Beavis. He's got the body language of a drag queen and just like all the confidence in the fucking world for this tiny little role that he's got. But that's what this movie does. Like, the more everything there's all these things that are over the top across the whole thing. Like Isaac's car when he's driving it, and just all these things that are just so damn silly.
Yeah.
And I don't think the first time that I noticed it or that I watched it, I was picking up on as much of just how funny it was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Because it's got such a serious vibe, but at the same time, it's so over the top and goofy. But he encapsulates that so perfectly in his performance. So
yeah,
his name is Romero, obviously after George Romero, and the dude's name is Frank Doubleday. So he deserves his props.
He's in Assault on Precinct 13. He's the guy that shoots the little girl with the ice cream cone. Spoilers if you've not seen that one. That's another great John Carpenter film. This movie, this film the screenplay was written, like Joe said, back in 1974, but when they were finally going to make it, he got Nick Castle to come in and punch it up. He added the character of Cabby, added some jokes and stuff, and the movie is comedic, and it does it in a non-annoying, like persistent MCU kind of way, to like have the action, have the weight of the seriousness. And it's also kind of scary. Like when I remember even as a teenager watching this, like those scenes when like, he's walking through New York and all of a sudden people just start like appearing and shit like that. Like that's some pretty creepy stuff, man. For real. What about you though, Brooks? What's a performance you want to highlight in the film?
Well, I really enjoyed Isaac Hayes as the Duke of New York in this movie. Like he doesn't get like, I feel like he should have had a little more time, but he does. He gets what time he does have. Like I think it was peak. And like what a great villain. Just like this fucking ridiculously over the top, like extravagant dude who drives around. Like when I saw the car with the fucking chandeliers on the headlights, I was like, fuck yeah, dude. This is truly the Duke of motherfucking New York.
number one.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, he's awesome. He's got this little eye twitch, right? And in the commentary, Carpenter's like, that was his idea. He wanted to have this eye twitch every time he saw a snake. So like, if you want, every time I watch it now,
He's a complicated man.
What about you, Fable? What's a performance you want to highlight?
I'm gonna go with Lee Van Cleef as Hawk, man. I really enjoyed him, man. He's the kind of bad guy that I like, right? Because he's he's a bad guy and he could back it up. He's not a swarmy, scared coward. You know what I mean? He would fight Snake if he had to fight Snake. He had no problem doing it. And, you know, as soon as he jumps on the screen, he's very, you know, he's noticeable. He pulls out that fucking revolver and shit. I'm like, God damn, this guy's a badass. Right? He's an asshole and he's ultimately a bad guy. But I think that dude, Van Cleef, played a good bad guy, badass bad guy. So, yeah, I'm going to give it to Van Cleef.
Yeah.
He's great. And some of the best scenes, I think, like, are between him and Snake. Like, just like the exposition, all that kind of stuff. In the commentary, Carpenter says that Lee Van Cleef, you know, he's old school. So he's used to, like, coming in, hitting his mark, saying his line, cut, move on to the next bit. But he has to, like, walk and deliver all these lines. He said it fucked him up. So he had to keep doing that exposition thing over and over again. But
I loved at the end when he was like, "You gonna kill me now, Snake?" he was like, "My name is Pliskin. Call me Pliskin." He was telling him to call him Snake through the whole movie. He's like, "Nah, call me."
They
Pliskin.
do the same goddamn bit in Escape from LA. It's the same movie with like a layer of cheese over it, man. Just, speaking of a layer of cheese, even if this man's having a fruit salad, it's got a layer of cheese on it. Jelani, what's the character you want to highlight?
I mean, I would say Maggie. She's the easy choice for me. I love Adrienne Barbeau. She's just such she's charismatic in a different way. I don't know what it is. Like she's that cool, calm, and collected person, but she always has brains back. It's just one of those things where she's just real down chick. And like even at the end when he dies from the mind, and she like goes to him and looks at him, and she immediately reaches her hand out for Snake to give her the gun and get him the gun. And he's like, "We gotta go, we gotta keep moving." And she's just like, this is where I gotta stay. If he dies, I die. And she was just so down. And I was just like, that's cool as shit. And even the first time I saw this movie, I love her tits there. I'm done. But but other than that, she's such a great character. I love her character. And how she's portrayed this film.
She doesn't get a lot of like dialogue and stuff, but what she's able to play with it, right? She's super badass. She's gorgeous in the film. Yeah. And then that moment at the end when you're like, fuck, she really does love this dude. Like and like just dude, that's a great ending, man.
Dude gave her gave Brain her. She was supposed to be there to keep him happy. And like she ended up falling in love with him anyway. And it was just, it's so sad to see and all that other stuff. There's so many characters in this movie. I don't want to steal anybody, but I'm not going to steal anybody. So I'm just going to shut up. This was great. This was absolutely fantastic. I love her character. There's one other person I love in this film. If y'all get it, I'll be like, yeah.
Nice. Say it, you lady. Just say it.
Nope. Too much work.
Joe.
If y'all get it, if they do it, then
All
right, Joe, what you got?
Because I got to go with Ernest Borgnine, the cabbie.
Yep.
He's so fucking good, and he's got that one like just stealing scene where he's just monologuing in the cab about how rough of a neighborhood it is as he's just setting up the Molotov cocktail. And you see the gang coming down the alleyway, and he just lights it. It's so like, and it's one of those things where it is a fun scene. It's a funny scene. He's one of the funniest characters in the movie. But there's this extra layer to it where the fact that he does it so like impulsively and so like mechanically of like, oh yeah, doing this and this stuff, like it shows how like it adds more to the world building, right? It sets up this world. It's a fun way to do it, but it also shows like, oh God, like this place is like that awful.
And he's a real New York cabbie. That's what it is.
The fact
so he knows, I mean, it's going to turn to shit. But he's like, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that he's a cabbie who like voluntarily stayed after they, removed everybody. And he's like, oh, because he's been there, like 34 years. Where he's like, I've been a cabbie on this here 34 years, like all this stuff. It's like incredible. And then I will also give a small shout out to one of the best like little hardly noticed cameos in the movie to Jamie Lee Curtis, who does the voiceover of the computer and does those announcements. That's Jamie Lee Curtis, and I'm like, that's fucking great. I love
Nice.
it.
I thought it was Sigourney Weaver. I was like, is that Sigourney? I was convinced it was.
Yeah, but no, it's Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's better.
For me,
Yeah.
one I want to highlight is Donald Pleasance as the president.
That was him.
Yes.
It was him.
Yep.
Yeah, I love him, and he apparently had a lot of fun. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, he's British, so he does not like against like playing like a buffoon as president, right? And that's what he was
You
doing.
can't get a British man to play the U.S. president.
I know, but he cracks me up when he's the wig. Apparently, was his idea, right? Like him wearing the wig was his idea. I love his delivery of that. You are the Duke of New York, a number one. And then at the end, when he just gets hit, just gets his revenge. And then when I like that character and I like the way it's portrayed. But Donald Pleasance, apparently, John Carpenter said in the commentary that he came up with his own backstory as to how he got to become president. And it involved something with like Margaret Thatcher, like taking over most of Europe or something like that. Like he came up with this elaborate backstory. So that was cool. But what's crazy is that obviously Kurt Russell really is the linchpin of everything, right? And instantaneously an action star was born, because sometimes it's hard for us to divorce ourselves or to understand what it was like in context. But all he had done was like Disney stuff and Elvis before this. So there was no faith by the studio that he was going to be able to carry a movie like this. But he totally did. And he became one of the biggest action stars of the 80s and the 90s when you really start thinking about it. This movie, though, is a John Carpenter film. That means it's got style and it's got structure. I love the way this is written. It is such a tight script. There's not a wasted line of dialogue. There's not a wasted scene. The editing of the movie is super precise and sharp. Every scene, the way it's written, the way it's put together, just effortlessly flows into one another. That's one of the things that John Carpenter does and does so well, even in some of his not so great movies. The style of it, though, the way it's shot. So I think it's one of the first, I don't know if it's a Panavision or something, but it's like an
super wide. It's a
Panavision.
Super wide, and apparently can film in very low light. So they were able to handle some things like that. But like Joe was alluding to, this is before Blade Runner. This is before a lot of those other movies. We take this look in this movie for granted. This was a new look for a night story, right? This was a whole new look, a whole new vibe that was highly influential on cinematography throughout the 80s and the 90s and even into today. I think the best thing about it might be the style and structure. I don't know. What do you think, Verno, about the style and structure?
I think what's crazy is not only had I never seen the movie, but I'd never even heard the premise. So going into it, I went in completely cold. I had no idea. And instantly I'm hooked. It's like, that's such a cool premise. You're involved in the president of the United States. It's so simple, but the world building is so cool around it. But you're talking about Kurt Russell just becoming that action star. It kind of set up, the way I'm viewing it, is like the template for the action star of the 80s, the action star that I am used to, the Bruce Willis, everything Arnold ever did, everything Stallone was doing in the 80s. They kind of like took the Clint Eastwood mold and then updated it for the 80s and took that. But anything Dean Cundy's doing is incredible. Like, I can just eat this shit up. And that's just the scene you were talking about earlier, Robbie, or one of the scenes where whatever the old dude from the Westerns, Lee Van, whatever his name is, where he's having a hard time doing these long walks. I just love that. When he's walking through the debris up to the egg that the president came down in, the way it lands on that, the camera's been standing next to it the whole time. The patience that this movie has, this is what you don't see in later action movies that I was more used to. So that's what I really appreciate about it. It's got a vibe that you don't get from other flicks. It's less commercial, more independent feeling in that way.
Hell yeah. What about you, Brooks? Speaking of less commercial, more independent, what do you think?
Well, I like this movie I think it's well paced, because it keeps things going, but it also takes time to to explain things too, or let you understand what's going on. And this movie is it's very chaotic, but I think it's good in this instance, because it's part of like the atmosphere of this place is like you can just be walking along and all of a sudden a bunch of dudes will just burst out of the fucking floor or out of the fucking walls or whatever. Dude will just throw a fucking Molotov cocktail into a fucking alleyway. It's crazy. It's like it kind of reminds me of that movie The Warriors in a way, in that it's like it's somebody trying to get to a place, but there's like all these crazy fuckers that are just all over the place and ready to take them out. And I really like at the end, like the way Snake handles like when you ask the president like let me just ask you one thing, and like because the president you don't really know much about him throughout the movie, like the government is not portrayed as very good, I guess, but it's not like really elaborated on. But at the end, it really shows, that the president is just like, he's just a politician. He's just another dude, another, president, another kind of like, just hollow bureaucrat. And, it is very Carpenter. This movie is very John Carpenter, and like in the best ways too. Like, I think this is like John Carpenter at his best.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Fable? What do you think about the style and structure?
Yeah, man, I'm glad you mentioned The Warriors, because that's exactly the vibe I got from this movie for sure when it comes to cinematography and nighttime movies. And I just love nighttime movies in general. Like, you know what I mean? Another movie nobody talks about that I love is a nighttime movie is Judgment Night. Anybody remember? Emilio Estevez, Judgment Night?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Dennis Leary.
Yeah, I just love movies like this in general. But what's really impressive here is sense of scale without budget, right? Like the way they, like he's walking through the street and he actually encounters the plane crash, right? How hard was that to do at that time? And to film it the way they did with the budget they had and make it look the way it looked, the debris of the city, when, there is no debris, they had to set dress all of that shit in St. Louis, whatever. I know it was a shitty looking place anyway, because they said they picked it for that reason, but they set dressed it and everything.
Yeah.
So
it was in downtown St. Louis, and there had been like a fire, right? That like gutted a big portion of it. So they were allowed to like cut the power and go in there and film this little movie, man. That's so crazy cool.
Right. So yeah, all those elements of just the technical prowess of trying to create this like more grand tale with what little you have. I think they pulled it off really good, especially, when you see those shots when it's coming over the wall, you see the city in the background. Yeah, it's not the best thing, but it still gives you that scale. And, just everything you mentioned earlier with the models and the planes and stuff like that.
See, what's crazy about the special effects is even though, they're like, obviously these kind of special effects are like with the matte paintings and the models and stuff, it's not as sophisticated, technically speaking, I guess, as like the CG that we can do today and all that kind of shit. But regardless of them not looking maybe as real or as smooth or something, like they still are real. Like you still in your mind know it's real, right? You know it's solid. And that's something that with all the CG, just look at this compared to Escape from LA. It's stupid. That damn surfing
and it's stylistic.
scene. Oh my God.
It's a stylistic choice. I mean, regardless if it's like ultra photorealistic, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful shot. Like,
can you do that today? I wonder. Like the people I know there are people that like to stay as practical as possible, but the last movie I can think of that really used models and shit like that was like the Lord of the Rings movies.
Right.
And even back then they were like, why would you use models? Just CG it. Could you imagine if the Lord of the Rings was all CG for all that shit?
It's The Hobbit.
What about you, Jelani? Style and structure.
Yeah, man, I agree with all you guys, man. It's one of those. It's simple. It's a very simply put together. Like on the budget you have, I appreciate it because it makes you feel like you're in a city that is just this torn down, dilapidated nonsense. People are like you said, Brooks. They're busting out of the walls. And another character I want to mention was the other lady, the first lady that Snake meets. And like she's one of the gang members that she is like to join the Turks and everything. And you think she's going to be part of this adventure, and then she gets drugged down into the ground, drugged into the floor by those monsters. Which probably I don't know what they did. They probably ate her. It's one of those just weird things that happen. And you go through each shot of the horrors that are happening in this city. and the girl that gets passed around in the room, like it's a quick shot, but it's scary. And then you, like you said before, you see the people like snakes out in the middle of the street, and all of a sudden those people start to appear, and all those things. It's scary. It's it's
you even got
unwieldy.
Blue from Old School trying to stick you up. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Nice shoes, nice boots. And Chief, and he goes off, man. But it's just those things, and it's still New Yorkish. I've been in New York twice, and it's been they're both weird experiences. Both have been fun experiences, but weird. And I'm like, yeah, what if this was like amped to 1,000? That's what they did in this film. They really do a great thing. I love the matte painting, or the artistry of the city thing that we've already talked about, the cityscape, and how they use the trackers. I love the technology, how simple the technology is.
James Cameron did some work on the matte paintings on that one, on the skyline, and he also did some of the motion capture for the
nice. Yeah, I love the black light thing for the city as well.
How clever, right?
It's very smart. Yeah, and it shows like it shows the heat signatures of the people that are there if they want to be there, and that sounds like some futuristic technology. That I guess it was just some kind of crazy radar that just works that way. But it's practical. Everyone, like I said, everyone. There's not, like we said before, not a wasted line. It's so clean. It's so well put together, and it's like an hour and 39 minutes.
Yeah,
like you're telling your story, and you're out. You're like, you get in, you get out. Escape of LA couldn't do that, and it's the same damn movie.
2 hours 20 minutes if it's done today, easy. Easy.
Yeah, that's what they mess up.
For
and
sure.
you're not. There's no fat. There's no fat in this movie.
Yeah.
They say
there's no forced love story. Snake does not fall in love with nobody. He's just trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
She gets killed. She gets killed quick.
Even then, he's like, "What do you want?" But, they always say, "Don't overstay your welcome," and we always say that's a good thing for a movie not to overstay its welcome. But it's good to understay your welcome. It's good for when the movie ends and you're like, "No." Like, I want to stay in this world a little bit longer, and we eventually got what we wanted, or did we? Joe, what do you think about the style and structure?
Yeah, it's good. I think that's fair to say. First, before I get into that, so some people talk about the Warriors, so I just thought it was important to mention that I have gone to a big screening of the Warriors. It's a great film. Yeah, of course I did. So now I feel comfortable going into the topic. So building off what Robbie mentioned earlier about the burned out section of St. Louis that this was filmed in, it was like all this stuff like combined with, they were able to get a cheap plane, like a broken down plane they were able to carve up and put out there. They bought that bridge where the shootout happens from the government for $1. Like all these like things they were able to do to like not just save money, but also like just add to it. So they were able to really like mess up like some of those sets because they weren't really sets and things like that. And they and again the filming at night, I know I mentioned that earlier, and we were talking about that, but that was all a conscious choice because there's no, I mean, they could have just as easily made this movie and had it also be daylight, and you could have people, there are also arguments to be made that seeing some of this stuff happen in broad daylight in a way could even be more terrifying, but it worked really well. Like again, like it set up that Blade Runner kind of aesthetic a year before Blade Runner. And it doesn't do, like Verno was sort of mentioning with it feeling like a 70s sort of action. So all of this combined, you get that, you get there's no big grand shootout where, it's all them and they got to save the president in a way that's on like the scope that a studio would probably feel comfortable doing today. I don't think you would get a studio comfortable putting something like this out.
Mhm.
But it adds to it that it's a bit more subdued because of the situation they're sort of like in. Like it adds to the poignancy at the end of the movie. One of the things that hasn't been brought up yet, which is shocking in a way, is the MacGuffin cassette that fucking means nothing, that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
never bother to explain, and that's
It's
just
nuclear
like,
fusion. It's
yeah,
supposed to be.
it's like,
It's supposed to be the thing that like saves them from nuclear war from like Russia or wherever the hell they were going. That's the only
yeah, they
the
just
guy on the tape. I'm like, you just couldn't get the guy on the tape to like talk to you. You couldn't just you recorded it. This is what you need. Yeah, it's dumb.
yeah,
I love how the Duke's like right hand man like trades it away for a hat.
It's the most important
yeah.
thing like in mankind's history, and you trade it for a hat. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and I'm going to use that sort of dovetail off of like, well, I do love this movie. I do understand, like there are some cracks in it from that structural standpoint, right? Of like, you have this MacGuffin, you have, it's like we got to get the president, but you know he loses the arm, like the wrist tracer for no real reason other than the movie has to happen. So he can't trace the president right away. So they just come up with that because it's like, why would they have like cut off his middle finger, but also just like left? Like they didn't want to keep yeah, I don't know. And instead of like breaking it, they just have it go somewhere else. You would think these guys would just like break the fucking thing, but it's like, you know,
He
like
just has
just
a
like
suitcase attached to his arm. That's what it's gonna be. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like so there's like some of that stuff
Yeah.
going on with it. There's some of, and again, it's they keep it tight. There's more questions than answers in some instance, and sometimes that's good. But and while it doesn't bother me, I think it's valid if people were like, so wait, this is like this place where they're just putting all the criminals on Manhattan Island, and because it's a cheap sort of movie, it's like barely anyone is anywhere. Like there's so few people in this one place where they just put everybody like the like in a premise like that in this dystopian of a world, you would think it would be the exact opposite. If you're only putting people in Long Island, not Long Island, Manhattan Island, then it would be filled to the brim with people. It'd be dead bodies in the street. They don't care. There's like very few like dead bodies or
Well,
traces of
That's
people
where my
around.
immersion was broken, where it was like,
Yeah.
well, why not just Long Island as well? Like, why just
Yeah.
why stop there? Like Long Island
Yeah.
too.
Long Island, Staten Island, it's like kind of like just you know all these different islands. It's like, but yeah,
Archipelago.
Staten Island too. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, they've got all the cannibal zombies living in the sewers. I think that's why. That's how they explain it away.
you know, but it's like we have you know a handful of these like zombie, but we'll just have the same ones kind of running around and so like I get it. It doesn't. I'm not necessarily saying it bothers me watching it, but I feel like it's worth bringing up. And if people bring that up as like you know, I get kind of sucked out of it because like things. It's like,
yeah, the bridge scene is
get
that.
it.
The bridge scene is that because they have this minefield supposedly, but the path through the thing is only big enough for that car, so you gotta hit a mine. Like there's no way that you could dodge a mine in the path that he had with the car. But anyway, yeah, no, it's not perfect.
You got to do it on foot. You got to go on foot. It's the only way.
Yeah, that worked for Brain. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the music. The music. Okay, so this is the first time John Carpenter worked with Alan Howarth, who went on to be a big time collaborator with him. They did 7 movies together, I think. I really like the music in the movie. Obviously, it's a John Carpenter score. It's an electronic-based John Carpenter score. It's not my favorite theme in a John Carpenter movie. There's an element that I think of it as cheesy. The da-da-dun, ba-da-dun, ba-da-dun, dun, 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 dun. But the moment when I do it, I just keep doing it. But then,
Yeah.
like, if you listen to the rest of that stuff isolated, there's some really good bits in there that seem like something that would belong in a Halloween or or Fog or something like that. And really just I love John Carpenter's music in all of his movies pretty much, but it is like pre Big Trouble stuff that I think is the sweet spot for Carpenter scores, and Escape from New York is no exception. What do you think about the music, Verno?
I think it's badass. That specific theme that you're thinking of, and just that it's like more melodic than a lot of John Carpenter stuff is. It is a little cheesy, but it's awesome. Like it is like awesome. I love it. There's so much that has been said about him. I'll just say this: watch this movie if you want to know the importance of a John Carpenter score. This is a TV movie called Someone's Watching Me. Came out in '78, the same year that he did Halloween, and it's got some other fucking guy doing the score, and it kills me. Like somebody's just got to go and rescore this, like Carpenter, because it would be awesome. Like it takes away so much of the suspense.
Yeah.
Or to put it the other way, he adds so much of the suspense in his films and the vibe, obviously, from the music. And for me, I don't know, it always fits so good because he's the guy doing it all. They all kind of sound like each other, but there's a point of this one, Rob. You said it. It sounds just like Halloween for a second. Where it's it's the same like rhythmic thing, different notes but same rhythm.
Like that little dun, 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 dun.
Right. It's when they first get together with Brain and they're headed out. It's like, oh fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But I love it, dude. It really it's you can't see this movie without it. It's such a part of the movie. It's like 50% of what's going on in the film.
100%. What about you, Brooks? What do you think about the music?
I like it, and hey, John Carpenter knows how to score John Carpenter movies really well. Who'd have thought, And I'm like, this soundtrack, it's less, it doesn't like, I talk about a lot of soundtracks do kind of blend in and like aren't as noticeable, but this soundtrack does jump out at you at times. Like it really gets your attention, but it doesn't distract from the movie. Like a good soundtrack should. It adds to the atmosphere. And in an action movie like this, that usually is good. It helps you get pumped up when you hear like a cool theme or or something like that. So yeah, I think he did all right.
Hell yeah. What about you, Fable? What do you think?
I love the soundtrack, man. Actually, I really, it really jumped out at me, like Brooks said. And yeah, you're right. It does have a lot of that Halloween tone. The parts where he's roaming the city, I feel is where the most atmosphere with the soundtrack is. But I also like the beat stuff, the stuff with the beats in it, like the sort of disco, sort of doom 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 doom.
Yeah.
Doom 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 doom.
Dude, the song that's playing when you first see the Duke roll up in his car, right?
Yeah.
They use that in Beverly Hills Cop Part 2. Yeah.
But and that I guess is another throwback to the Warriors, because the Warriors also has that disco kind of, I don't know, there's something about nighttime disco and New York that's scary.
I can't wait to hang out with you, brother. That's gonna be a fun night. Nighttime disco with Rockin', Robbie, and Fable. Let's do it. All right, Jelani.
Can't get to Coney Island, you're dead.
Jelani, what do you think about the music in the film?
It's great, and I'm surprised no one mentioned this. I'm gonna steal a Joe thing. The tape. When you play the tape at the end, it is I love that. I don't know. It's like to me that is a big ending, because like you get like you think it's gonna be the fusion speech or whatever it was, because they didn't play much of it either. And then you're just like, oh, okay, which would have been kind of okay. That was set up a little exposition, but you don't really need it. But playing that music was fantastic for me. But John Carpenter, his score, I'm sorry, that's some humming. I mean, it's crazy. It's just one of those things that sticks in your head. There's so many good parts in this movie. You've all said it. It's just absolutely fantastic music. It makes me like really glad that I love John Carpenter as well, as much as he does, not just for his movies, but for his music. He is very talented in a lot of different ways, and I like everything he puts out. Well, almost everything. They're good stuff.
Yeah, you like
But-
Escape from LA? All right. What about
Yeah.
you, Joe? What do you think about the music?
Yeah, again, I love the score. I love John Carpenter, scores. Again, for the most part, there are exceptions, but this fits really well. I love that style has also like come back into popularity in recent years. Like we're getting more movies with these sort of like synth soundtracks coming out, and sometimes they're not even produced by A24. Yeah, and building off to what Jelani was just saying, with the tape, the first thing I think of, and in addition to this, like this makes me think, and I know they've done this bit in other things probably before this and also after this, but and in between. But it makes me think of the Simpsons episode where they put the tape in when Burns is about to raid the Homer's home, and it's playing Waterloo, and it's amazing. I love that bit so much. Just these like just like armed security just storming their house to ABBA is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's just that kind of thing. But yeah, the music works really well throughout. Like again, there's really nothing like, as much as I do enjoy this movie, if you swapped out the score and just gave it generic 80s score, like whatever, like you do for an action movie in the 80s, this movie probably like drops a full point if it's
At least.
whatever
I believe it.
bland score. If it was just like, like while they're fighting or something, like it's like, who gives a
It's
fuck?
like when you watch Escape from LA, not to keep ragging on
Yes.
that one, but like the score in
100%.
that one, because it's like a different version of this theme, and it's okay. It's got elements that are okay, but then it has those big, just cliche like action things, and it sucks. It's just
It's such a bad movie,
it
though.
takes away the whole atmosphere, man.
Yeah.
Carpenter
Yeah.
movies need to sound like a certain way.
This jumped into the top 3 for me. Like after this watch.
Yeah.
Girl,
There's a lot of Carpenter movies that
Yeah.
every time I
This one
watch
jumped
them,
in
I
top
like
3.
them. I just keep liking them more and
Yeah.
more. The
Yeah.
Fog is like that. This is like
Mhm.
that. Starman's like that. Like every time I watch
Starman,
them, like,
yes. Starman is so underrated. Jesus
Yes,
Christ.
it is.
I love Starman. Hell yeah.
God, we got to do
We gotta
Starman
do that one.
coming up
Oh,
soon.
yeah.
Man. That's the next
I come
Carpenter
back for
movie.
that. Yeah.
Hell yeah. This movie though, it's got a point, it's got a purpose, and I think we're gonna have some fun with this one. So, what's the theme, Verno? What's it saying to you?
Oh, I mean, the first thing that jumps out is it's commenting on crime and punishment. And just, I mean, somebody pointed out earlier, I love that bit where at the end of the movie, Snake just asked a simple question and he gets it out of the president. And we all can understand quickly, oh, the president doesn't give a shit about the people. So I think that's a big part of it. The government doesn't give a shit about the people. But plus just the way that they're taking the criminals and just throwing them in New York and locking them up and don't give a shit about them. That's what I like about the way that John Carpenter does messages. He doesn't really go much deeper into that. He's not trying to tell you exactly how to feel about that. It just is within the movie. And it's just something that's like, oh yeah, that's fucked up. But he's not dwelling on it. He's more interested in the entertainment about it. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, but that's what sticks out to me.
Yeah.
But there's a big interesting thing too about like who has positions of power in what world, right? So like Donald Pleasant's the president, but like he is completely subjugated and embarrassed by a man who at that time would have no business being president in most people's mind. You know what I'm saying? So like, I love that it's like, well, in here, who's top dog now, right? And so I like how that works. But also to show you that like Donald Pleasance is president, like what's the difference between him and the Duke? Nothing. The Duke's just more out there about who he is, right? Like more honest, right? I guess.
Yeah.
What about you, Brooks? What do you think? What's this movie speaking to you, to your heart?
I think a big theme in this movie is like, just kind of the disenfranchisement of people, like the lack of the loss of faith in their leaders, and like, this idea of our like, of hyper nationalism. It's like, because like when like Snake, he has like the same kind of attitude. Like when they say like, oh, the president's in New York, like I would have given the same role to like get a new president.
Right.
Like, but it's like, this, it's like this idea like of like this guy is so important. And like it's so important. We have to save the president. We have to get this tape with these like the super like a special thing. But and like in the end, like it's all pointless. Like even I think the tape being pointless was kind of one of the points of the movie. Is like this whole thing he went to get is like, and who even gives a shit? It wasn't worth anything. It was all just pointless. And like it's like and think like things don't change because like these guys are always, presenting this idea of like, of how important, like, the president is, how important, these secrets are, and, Snake, like it's even said early on in the movie, Snake used to be like in the military. He was a military man, but like now he's just like, he just does not give a single shit, it seems, about any fucking thing. Like he doesn't care about the president. He doesn't care about wars. He doesn't care about any of that. He's just a dude like who knows, like he knows that crime pays, so he's a criminal.
Nice. What about you, Fable? What's this movie speaking to you?
I mean, it has the obvious themes that it has, but I don't know. I feel like it's like just about, I don't know, how Snake is probably like, everybody thinks he's a badass. Right?
Everybody knows
everybody.
Him. Like right? Everybody knows who he is.
The president's world, they know of him. He's notorious in that world, and he's notorious in the underworld too, right? Like everybody knows who Snake is. But Snake is probably the most normalist, kindest, moral, has the most morals of everybody he encounters. But he's the crazy one, right? He's the local that we send in to get the president. He's the only man that could get the job done. He's the only one who could beat the Duke. Or that big guy that he stuck a freaking bat in his head. Snake, as a badass as he is, he's the one with he's the bravest. He's got the most heart. He's got, you know what I mean? He's the most logical one, smartest guy in the room. So yeah, I find that juxtaposition. I don't know if it's trying to say anything, but that's just what it spoke to me.
Hell yeah, absolutely. What about you, Jelani?
Yeah, I kind of agree, Fable. I mean, Snake is like, of course, he's the heart of the movie and the main character. Yeah. He pulls out a lot from this film. He is the moral compass. He's even the moral compass in Escape from LA. If you want to be really honest, he's the one that like shuts down the world with the little MacGuffin thing in that movie, 666, and he shuts it down, shuts the world down. So he is that. Yeah, it does. Yeah, the regular themes, everything that Rice pretty much said, everything that makes sense for this film. Authoritarian states, fascist nations shouldn't be around to exist because they don't care about their people. They don't care about the situations that people actually go through. I mean, some of these people were nuts, but I'm pretty sure that they were doing just like they were doing in Escape from LA. They were just sending people there to send them there because we don't want, society doesn't want this type of thing, but it's predicated on the culture of the government, of what the government is.
And Escape from LA, they really veer into that whole like
it's a religious right.
Yeah, the rise of the religious right. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes over, and Cliff Robertson's the preacher that's also
and Uncle
president.
Ben, man. Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben, man. Oh, Cliff Robertson, he made me cry, man.
Yeah, there was a scene like
Peter.
The scene where the plane jackers are like, the woman plane jackers like, we're gonna take your fast. Like that reminded me. That made me think so much of like George W. Bush era liberals.
Yeah.
How
they're just gonna take
that might have not aged so well, but
it speaks a lot to today's culture, how we are now. Not extremely, but it goes to that level sometimes. And we're in an election year, so this is an appropriate film about who our leaders are and what leaders should represent. The people what is it? The leaders should the people should be afraid of their leaders. The leaders should be afraid of their people. You know, the people that actually are there. And of course, Donald Pleasant didn't give a shit. That's why the tape got messed up. You know, and if he did, I bet you if he answered that question properly, the snake would have been like, "My bad, gave you the wrong tape. Here's your tape." You know what I'm saying? And it would have been done. But it wasn't, and that's how it would go. That's what I think about the movie as well.
Hell yeah! What about you, Joe? What you got?
Well, again, everyone covered most of it, but this is very much a movie through a like purist libertarian lens, because Snake is very much a libertarian type hero, and it's sort of symbolized through Snake has his life interrupted by the government, and the greatest gift you can give someone is for, like, the only thing anyone wants is to just have the government no longer interfere with your life, because they basically are just like, hey, if you do this for us,
we'll leave you alone.
We're hands off. And then they offer him a job. They're like, oh, hey. And it's like, and that's symbolically, sort of like the government offering him a job is the government then being like, oh, we can do these other things for you. And it's like, no. I don't want you to do anything for me. I just want my freedom. And that's where the movie's really coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all covered it, right? I don't know what I could possibly dig out, but as I'm sitting here thinking, like, obviously I don't trust the government, right? Anybody who listens to my shows knows that. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I have thoughts and opinions about, the police state or the dangers of where we could be leading, or crime and punishment, like Mr. Tolstoy was saying right next to me. So that was Tolstoy, right? Crime and Punishment.
Sure.
Did I
I
mess
was
that
gonna
up?
say yes, confident, like I know. Yeah, totally. Dude.
Of course it is.
I started doubting myself. I'm like, wait a second, man.
Personally, I think things could be better.
But then
I'm willing to put my neck out there like that and say the things other people aren't willing to.
That's so. But I'm thinking, what can I apply personally into my life?
Dostoevsky,
right? Dostoevsky. Yeah. Right. My bad. One of those Russian dudes I knew. Those books are long. Like, those are books that I always buy, right? And I have in my library. I've never fucking read one of those. Like, what the fuck? Why do I have 4 brothers in there? Why? I don't know. That book's like fucking this. If I'm going to read a book that long, it's going to be The Stand, finally. You know what I'm saying?
Finally.
Anyway, so what was I saying? Okay, so here's the thing. All of the other stuff, that makes sense to me. Like, I don't trust the government. I think that we handle, the prison system like terribly wrong. There's like, and I too, like Joe, think that things could be a little bit better, right? Across the board for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Possibly. But one thing Snake does learn in the movie, and I love that Fable and Delaney were focusing on the idea that he is a hero in this movie, even though he's kind of like an anti-hero. Some people think he's not likable, but he's very much that he's John Carpenter. Like, John Carpenter's mindset is Snake Plissken's mindset, right? And you can look at John Carpenter's career in Hollywood, and the studios are the government, and John Carpenter's Snake Plissken. I mean, that's exactly what it is. But Snake only gets through with the help of others. So one of the things that he has to do in this film is allow other people to help him, even when they annoy him, even when he's got a very valid beef against them. And not everybody is what they seem at first, like what we think Maggie is at first, not the final impression we get. We think that Brain is like this like skeevy, conniving guy, and he is, but at the same time, there's something inside of him that sometimes doesn't just look out for himself, because he loves and cares about Maggie. And there's all kinds of elements about these characters, and Snake has to rely on them. And I think that's an important lesson to learn. No matter how on your own you think you are, no matter how much you want to escape a situation or whatever, you can't do it alone. You need to rely on the people around you, even if it's just assholes that you don't want to be around, right? Sometimes we're just stuck with the people that we're stuck with, right? So that's how that goes. All right, now it's time to rate the film. You out there in the chat, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you rate Escape from New York? Verno, kick us off here on the panel.
I feel like I might be going a little bit low from what you guys are at, but I'm at a 4.0, and I think the biggest, like, I love the movie. I think it's badass, but I think my biggest issue with it is that it's an action movie where I don't really dig the action. I don't think it's that. None of the action scenes are like, oh, that was a great action scene. Like, even when they rescue the president, or even at the end, like, all the bits that are supposed to be action are pretty underwhelming in the film. It's badass in a lot of different ways that we've talked about, but if I'm thinking about things that I would ding on the movie, that would be it. And then the other thing is the dude at the end that is supposed to be shaving Donald Pleasant's face. I want to take a point off just for this fucking guy. It's so annoying. He's just like, it's like, we can see you plain as day. That shaving cream is going nowhere. You are phantom swiping. He does it over and over, and it fucking bugs me like a lot. I watched this movie 3 times, and it really bugged me every time. So, but other than that, it's great. It's one, obviously, I'm glad that I finally caught up to with society, with the rest of nerd society.
Hell yeah. What about you, Brooks? What do you think?
I just want a 5. I love this movie. This is one of those "where have you been all my life" movies for me. I watched this movie. I'm like, man, like, kid me missed out on not seeing this movie. He would have loved the fuck out of this movie.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like, it does have its flaws, but like with a good action movie, like the flaws are like irrelevant. It's like, because you're enjoying yourself so much that that doesn't matter. And and that movie feels like that for me. And like, I would totally like watch this one again. Like, it feels like one of those movies where I would almost always be in the mood to watch it. And that's pretty much all there is to say.
It's way better than Missing in Action, isn't it?
Oh yes.
Oh my God, leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds.
That was probably the worst movie we've ever reviewed on this channel. I don't know, man. And we sing high praises for Surf Ninjas. Some of us did, not all of us, right? But I don't know. I think the Page Master might be the fucking worst one. Goddamn Manny.
Why'd you do that to us, Manny? Why?
God damn. Anyway, Fable, what about you? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give Escape from New York?
I'm gonna go with 4.5. Yeah, 4.5. Yep. It's not my favorite Carpenter film, so just for that, because my favorite Carpenter film will get a 5, right? So this is not my favorite, so yeah, a little less than that. But you can't deny the influence of this movie. The influence is very big. Like, it's huge, actually, because you're telling me he's trying to play Clint Eastwood, right? Well, his caricature of Clint Eastwood became something because people try to copy Snake Plissken, try to copy Metal Gear, try to copy The Witcher. This is the same kind of like caricature of Clint Eastwood that survived for 30, 40 years. So we got to give it up to just the iconic nature of this movie. So yeah, 4.5, man, 4.5.
Hell yeah, 4.5 from Fable. What about you, Jelani? What do you think?
Yeah, I love this film. I've probably watched it maybe 7 times in my lifetime. I would say. I think it's been about 7. I need to watch it 8 or 9 or 10. Its rewatchability is absolutely insane. Everything about it it's a clean film. I can't give it a perfect score either, but I'm going to give it a 4.69.
69.
It's a very culturally appropriate film. It makes what the crap just happened?
Man's trying to shut you down.
You said culturally appropriate, and I think the algorithm thought you were about to say something about cultural appropriation, and then it just like cut you out.
They realized he was black, and they're like, "Oh wait, no, it's fine."
Yeah, and also, since we're on that tip, fuck the police. Fuck the police. There, I'm done. We're good.
All right, Joe. What about you? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give Escape from New York?
Yeah, I'm going 4.5. I really, really like this movie. It's great. There are like just a few things that sort of ding it, but one of the other things that really needs to be stressed is, has anyone on earth done something as simple as like Kurt Russell, as like, I'm Kurt Russell in all of these movies, but I put on an eye patch and everyone's like, oh, you're Snake Plissken. Like, you know, like it's incredible that that worked. And like, and it will always work.
Yeah.
Well, for in this one instance.
Well, no, it happened again. It worked again for Captain Ron, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
No, there's something about him in those army pants with that weird tidy shirt that he got, and the freaking big ass gun, the eye patch, the fucking hair.
The hair, dude.
I mean, yeah, it's something
It
about
is.
this look that like it looks like it inspired G.I. Joe and just shit that came after Action One. Oh shit.
It is exactly like that, just that very simple look, and it's just like just incredible. But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
so 4.5.
I'm with a lot of y'all here. I'm 4.5. It's not a perfect film, but it's a great film. I can overlook a lot of these flaws and just say it's an influential film. It's an amazing film. It's got some great themes. It's got a brilliant performances, some very well done characters. I like the script. I like the humor interjected into it. I like the beginning, the middle, and the end. I enjoy this movie, but it's not my favorite Carpenter film. I can probably think of 5 that I like a little bit better, but I'll tell you what, I don't care, man. 4.5 is still very respectable in my opinion. You know, because there are John Carpenter movies that get less than 3. Let's just be honest, okay? There's like 1 or 2 of them.
There's like a few, There's 1 or 2,
Yeah, and we'll talk about them. Eventually, we'll get to them. So a 4.5 for me and 4.5 for me and Joe and Fable, a 5 from Brooks, a 4 from Verno, and a 4.69 from Jelani for a PCP average of 4.5. All right, everybody. Thus concludes our review of Escape from New York. But holy cow, we're not done. We're going to be right back here next week for PCP Movie Night as we talk about a Guy Ritchie film, Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels. This was a movie that I heard about probably on MTV. I think they were involved in promoting the movie. I don't know. But I loved this movie when it came out. Like, it was a big deal to me. And so I'm very excited. I haven't seen it in probably like 15 years, but I used to watch it all the time. So next week, Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels. Do check out Dylan this week on Dylan's Horror Show, where they're talking about Behind the Mask, the rise of Leslie Vernon, I think. I've never seen that one. I hear things. I don't know. I've never seen it. But join those fellas over there on Saturday night. Verno, thank you for being here. What you got coming up, my brother?
Actually, I just want to say one thing on the movie. Brooks, you nailed it. Like, I would always be in the mood to watch this. There's something about Carpenter. Even The Fog. Like, I don't love The Fog, but I will throw that movie on like constantly. This is so watchable that I kind of do love it. You know, I've fallen in love with it. Right. But go check out the video we did last week with E and Nick on Nope. It's a great conversation. And then this week we have coming up another 2022 banger was X. I've talked about that with Stu the Slayer, so that'll be out on Thursday. But go check out the convo on Nope. It was a ton of fun.
Hell yeah! Thank you so much for being here, Verno. Brooks, love you, dog. What you got? Final thoughts?
Well, I just found this in my desk drawer. You
found my VHS of Lock, Stock.
It's just the case though. It's somewhere. I've got the box.
We'll put a Barney VHS in there. We'll never know the difference.
That's the important part. You've got one you need.
Just put a blank VHS tape in there. But yeah, me and Jelani do Go Figure reviews, and we did a couple of videos recently. We did the Batman and Robin set from McFarlane, which was interesting to say the least. And it's you can watch that video and hear my beautiful voice.
I think I'm going to give that video the cold shoulder.
Cool video.
Oh.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing, man. Jelani, I love you. I love your channel, but so you bought all them fucking Batman and Robin action figures, bro?
Found him on the
Now he's
cheap.
got to get the whole set. He's gonna have to get the other ones when they come out.
Yeah,
God damn. All right.
it happened. It was a thing.
Fable, thank you so much for being here, man. What you got coming up?
Come join us this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern at a special date and time. Usually we're Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, but we're going this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where our guest will be DJ Lynx. So it's going to be a great time. Yeah, come join us Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Playing Fables and Amazing Friends.
Hell yeah, second greatest pop culture related show here on YouTube.
Thank you, brother.
What about you, Jelani? What's coming up for you, bruh?
Yeah, Brooks already mentioned it. We're Go Figure Reviews. We did the Batman and Robin figure review, but also Brooks did his own video. He reviews amiibos, and he's got another set of amiibos that have come out. That's a Super Smash Brother amiibos. I made this thumbnail just for you, Brooks. It looks
You look
pretty,
like you're trying to throw up blood.
Yeah, he's doing something, but yeah, check us out. Those are our favorite videos. We get a lot of good comments for those. So yeah, check us out. We're doing pretty good. I think we are. Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's yeah. I think that was purposeful.
Oh, I see.
It's the fucking rap album cover. It's the back of the album, right? And he's got that Jesus look, right? Like he's looking
strictly
up
for my amiibos.
Good times. Good times. Great oldies.
Go sub up One Collection Down. Go sub up Go Figure Reviews. Go sub up Blood Splatter Chatter. Joe, it's always a pleasure having you here to dissect an awesome movie or a not awesome movie. What you got coming up, brother? Yeah.
Well, what just passed was the Sheena #5. It's done. It came out like a couple of weeks ago. So that's it. It's done. The whole thing's out. Check it out if you want. And there's going to be a trade of Cherish, I believe, is in solicitations right now, or is going to be out soon, which I edited the other year that Katana Collins had written that we were on Talk with Robbie about. What else? And then I got the King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, Volume 1, out April 24th. So that's my first YA graphic novel. It is based on the 90s cartoon. It's a reboot of that franchise. And then I am going to be at Emerald City Comic Con. I'm going to pop into Dublin Comic Con that Saturday of the show. So if you're in Dublin, Ireland, come find Joe. Then what was it, C2E2? I'll probably stop by a Mocha Fest probably that Saturday, like the week after that, which is like mid-March, March 16th and 17th. Then C2E2, Cradle Con on Long Island. It's a local show for me. In May. In June, I'm going to my first Heroes Con, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
And then,
we're going to get fucked up, man. It's going to be great.
It should be. It should be. It's going to be a fun time. And then, what was it? Yeah. So then, I'll be at like New York or Baltimore, FlameCon, some other stuff. But, I might go to another show or two. But there's a lot of opportunities to see Joe all across this country and one other country. So yeah, if you're around, I don't know, say hi. I don't know how you do that really. I guess you have to reach out to me while I'm at the show because I'll probably be wandering. But I might do signings. Come to my signing. Do it.
All right. I appreciate everybody for joining us. Do check out all those great shows. I can't believe you bought those. You bought those Batman and Robin figures.
Now.
You bought some
They
Batman and
look
Robin
good.
figures.
I was gonna end up getting like the Poison Ivy anyway, and I was like, I might as well get the whole wave. But she was so hard to
Let me tell y'all
find.
something about this dude. All right, everybody knows how Jelani felt about Ben Affleck's Batman. He was the first person I fucking knew who bought a Ben Affleck Batman action figure.
Yep. I bought one. You know why I bought it? And I'll tell you why. The reason I bought it was the bat suit from Dark Knight, where it was the metal suit.
Yeah,
You
the
can't see
armored
his
one,
face.
yeah.
The armored one, you can't see his face. And I was like, we'll never get another figure like this. And by the way, we haven't. And I was like, damn it, I want to get this figure. So I got it. And then I sold it. It's gone. I have no Ben Affleck figures because he sucks. He did a Super Bowl ad too.
Join us next week for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I don't know where that's streaming or whatnot. I have the Blu-rays. So speaking of Blu-rays, this Escape from New York Scream Factory edition is pretty dope.
Right.
And I'm sure they got a 4K now, Verno? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So highly recommended. All right, y'all. We really do appreciate you being here. Station, Pop, Pop, Boom, and the name is Pliskin.